You just heard A Dime a Dozen by Andrew Rainey Obeng from the upcoming Desynced album, Election Season. Welcome everybody to the Desynced Half a Year Later panel. My name is Ethan, my pronouns are they, them, I'm Ethan Hinaron on Twitter, and I'm a member of the Desynced team.
I'm Emily/Dizzy at FishyDiz on Twitter. Free her. I put the at in my intro first. Don't let Ethan fool you. That was me. That was my idea.
Hi there. I'm Joseph, he, him. And I worked on Desynced. I promise.
Hi.
Hi, Mica.
Hi, Mica.
Hi.
Hello.
Hey, you fucking ruined the could have been a free anyway.
Okay, so, what is Desynced? Desynced is a Homestuck fan adventure that we have all worked on.
And that's it.
Which started releasing about half a year ago in October last year, 2019. But has been in the works on and off for a bit under 3 years now. So this panel is going to be all about that process along with the comic itself and answering some questions that have been asked about the comic. And yeah, so I'm hoping you'll stick around and I'm hoping you'll enjoy it.
Hell
Hurrah!
Yeah. We got it started.
Okay.
Wow.
For those of you who are listening, we actually tried that once before. It did not go as well. So just forgive us. We're amateurs.
Very, very generous.
we're definitely amateurs at this. But
this is hard.
I have to talk online. The fuck.
Okay. So shall we take our first question?
Hell yeah.
Mickey!
Alright, that's a Mickey question. Mickey asked on Discord, what inspired you to start your own story? That's right, bitches. We're getting into Desynced beta, and that's for the people who have already been a fan of the comic.
Okay, fan
for those
trolls.
who don't know, the Desynced beta was kind of shitty.
So this started. It would have been mid 2018, right?
Oh fuck.
Yeah, early 2018.
Early 2018.
Yeah, early 2018. Really
So,
early 2018.
Really, what it was is me and Emily just made.
Oh fuck, we're going from that. It's earlier than that.
Oh yeah, well,
if we're going from the very, very, very beginning, then it's earlier than that.
me and Emily
I don't
made
even
fan
remember when
trolls. Then
yeah, this was like, when was that? Because what happened was, because I brief little like recap. Joseph has read Homestuck like way before we did. He's been in it since what, like the fucking like the golden. What would that era of Homestuck be referred to as?
2011, 2012. I'm an OG fan. I was like 10, going to the park
in worst of us.
Going to the park in full gray face paint.
Yeah, I remember I tried getting into it around that area. It was like when I was like 12, and because I remember I was watching fucking Mario Bros. Z, fuck yeah, and it was on this random ass like Flash site, and I remember there was some like asshole in like the comments like, oh, this reminds me of Homestuck, and I'm like, oh, I'll go check that out, and like I shit you not, the first like this was my first ever experience with Homestuck. It was I go on it and I stop because it wouldn't let me type in the name, and I was very confused. So I gave up. A while later, I tried again, and I hated the pacing. And then me and Ethan got into it years and years later, around like
2017, right?
Yeah, 2017. And that's and then I got into it because I remember. I'm just gonna fucking hog and talk about my experience. You guys can go after, but I remember I was listening to a bunch of like Undertale songs at the time, and I was like, oh yeah, fucking Toby Fox has made some other songs. I've listened to these songs like a million times at this point. I want to go listen to some other songs made by him. He's made some songs Homestuck, I heard, because obviously I'd heard a bit more about it after, Undertale came out. And fucking Black is what got me into it. the song and like the like track art, I guess, of what was on the YouTube video. I was like, man, this guy's design is fucking like nutty and sick. I want to read this comic. What the hell? It's way better than I thought it would be. And then I read it, and then I read it to an unhealthy extent over the course of a month, to the point of me reading it while on holiday in Rarotonga instead of spending time with my family.
So yeah, I got into it about the same time, and it was around then that, not too long after that, me and her created our troll sonas. And
yeah, because it was around that time that Hive Swap, like I don't know exactly when it was, I just remember seeing it, but I assume it wasn't too old at that point. But it was like the extended Zodiac, so we're like, hey, let's do that, that'll be fun. So me and we did it.
Yeah.
And we got a little signs. It was very cool. And I remember I drew. It was in my art book. This book was made for school, and I did not use it for school. And I made possibly the worst troll sonas ever for both of us.
Aw, don't be mean.
Okay, at least my one's design was terrible, but like the style, on the other hand, I wasn't very good at replicating styles at the time. And I tried replicating the Homestuck style. I failed replicating the Homestuck style.
Okay, but yeah, so after we met Joseph and the other two people who worked on the Desynced beta.
Desynced, yeah. Yeah.
We showed them our troll sonas because they'd also been fans of Homestuck, and we said, hey, you should make your own troll sonas. So they did.
I just find it I find it so funny. Sorry to go off quickly. I just find it funny how like the this Desynced might have like never existed this in heaven. I don't want to get in. We won't go into it too much, but we used to have like a mutual friend which kind of like introduced us. And I remember specifically he told me, don't talk about Homestuck with them. They hate it. They'll hate you if you bring it up. I did bring it up, and all there was just nostalgia. And then over time, this happened. So,
okay, so then we, so we all made our troll sonas, and how did it progress from there? We just sort of decided, like, hey, what would it be like if they were all in a world together?
Yeah, it was something like that, because I remember...
like, we didn't start off, like, deciding, let's make a fan comic.
Yeah,
we were just like...
And I think that's, like, probably, like, the worst approach to take.
Yeah.
But it worked out, even though we don't have these characters really in the comic anymore. It worked out. But I remember, because we all had our own troll sonas, and... I remember because we were just like playing with them. We're like, this is what my one's typing perk would be. This is what my one's class spec would be.
Yeah.
And then I remember like a few of us were like thinking way too much about it. I'm like, we've got so much information here. We could probably make like a fan comic of this.
Yeah.
And everyone was just like, sure, why not?
Yeah. Before Desynced was even really an idea, I used to cut class to write lore about my troll sona. I got really into it, so honestly I think making a fan adventure was just the next logical step.
Oh yeah, no, honestly, like where we were at was like the next logical step to like if we wanted to progress taking our characters like further and further. So yeah, I guess that kind of just like
but yeah, this also kind of answers a question asked by Rainy on Discord, which was how long did it take to get Desynced in its current form? A long time. The answer is a long time. We'd been working on
lucky.
it. So we'd been working
it was
on it for
it was a good like year and it was long. The Desynced beta was like developed for a long
let's actually explain what Desynced beta was. It was pretty much just a fan comic of 10 trolls. It was originally 5, and for a while we were working on it with the 5 trolls.
Yeah.
But then we decided
because remember we because all the troll summoners class specs were our actual class specs from the extended Zodiac.
Yeah.
And what ended up as a result is we had like some overlap, and honestly, there was like no balance between the aspects. We had 2 space players, and we had a breath player, a light player, and a mind player. And at first, we like thought it was like, oh, that's a cool gimmick for our fan comment. There's like too much space and not enough time players. Ooh. But then over time, we just decided for like proper story cohesion. But we didn't know any of that, but we called it that at the time. We decided to, create another 5, 1 more each.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And we had, we kind of ran with the idea of doubles.
Yeah.
Which is surprisingly like one of like, I'd say like the earliest proper thing that's like stayed around until now.
Yeah.
Because,
there are definitely some themes that have carried over from the old comic to this one.
But I think like the earliest one was probably like the whole like duality kind of one.
Yeah,
like the
absolutely.
Whole double that stayed like heaps. That's that's why the logo is like 2 contrasting colors.
Yeah.
And is 2 sets of 2 different things, even as well as cough the funny number. Funny number.
Anyways, let's use this as a bit of a tangent to go into some more of the history of Desynced.
Yeah.
So Jelly on Discord asked, "How did you all meet?" Oh boy.
Okay. Again, we're not going to go into it, but we will say that this old mutual friend was very important to us meeting.
I mean, well, Emily, Mica, and Ethan all know each other IRL.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've known each other for a long time.
We're all Kiwis
if you
from
couldn't
New
tell,
Zealand.
Yeah, if you couldn't tell from my lack of Kiwi accent, I'm an American.
He doesn't belong.
I'm the odd one out. Odd one out. Yeah, we met through a mutual friend. First person I met was Mica, then Emily. Then Emily introduced me to Ethan. You know how it is.
And there is one thing I specifically want to get into. Beyond, I mean, to be fair, I find it so fun shit talking how bad it was. But there's like one thing.
Bad.
It was bad. I think.
Do you want to talk about the stuff with Perkio?
Oh god, I mean that was bad. But
I thought you liked that.
I did, but I don't know. I don't really like it. Like
Is that the ancestor story?
Yeah, the ancestor story.
I
yes,
liked.
To be okay, another thing. I don't want to stay on the Dancers topic too much, since they were like easily the most like underdeveloped part of the Desynced beta. It was just Homestuck had it, we gotta have it. But the Dancers, I mean, were also just on the topic of this, were very underdeveloped because there was like 3 important ones, and the rest are like so unimportant. Which I mean, hey, that's what we're like on Homestuck. At least we have 3 and not 2, but still. But yeah, the main thing I want to talk about though, about how bad it was, and this we can bring this back up later because I want to talk about her later on. But the antagonist of the Desynced beta is fucking Lord English again.
Yeah, it was just it was it carried on from the end of Homestuck where Lord English went into a black hole and then came into the universe that this session was set in. And so he was like a skeleton form from the black hole, and we called
his
like
origin for that was fucking terrible.
We called him the Englishman, didn't we? Something like that.
Yeah, that's right. We called him English. Because I remember what happened was we were gonna have it so like the separate, like the individual parts, like components of Lord English's soul, were gonna like start like coming out more, and like Caliborn was gonna be like less in control. So we had like more like a clown kind of aesthetic going on. And then we made him like
clowns were super important.
Yeah, because the protag was a fucking clown. But yeah,
editor
also,
flash Boltro on the screen.
Put Boltro on the screen. That's his name. But also, fun fact: a few of the old Desynced beta trolls have appeared in a very early panel of Desynced as troll summoners.
Yeah, that was Paradise, Ithana, and Boltro. One thing I do find interesting about the Desynced beta was the fact that a lot of the story aspects of it sprung out of necessity almost. Like, for example, my character Ithana, which was literally just my name Ethan in a different language, so very unoriginal name on that one. But Ithana was a fuchsia blood because
because only good idea we fucking had.
we all, like, our characters were just our zodiacs. So he was a fuchsia blood since
so we
I'm
had two
a Pisces.
fuchsias.
Yeah, so because we had two of the team members were Pisces, so we had two fuchsias. And because of course it was only meant to be the the one
the
fuchsia
Desynced
character.
The trolls were an alternate, and they never weren't an alternate in the Desynced beta.
So our reason for it is that there was like this hidden village of like fuchsias that were hiding, culling, and it was like, it worked, but in retrospect, like, Ithana as a character was really just, he didn't have a character, so there were a lot of things that were very void of character. And there are
also just like quickly, like, going off that, at the time I was like a fucking idiot when it came to like, character arcs or like the theming of Homestuck. So I just thought it like, Ithana's character arc is about being okay with being more troll-like and being okay to kill people. It's like, Emily, that's not a very good character arc. Yeah, like.
So yeah, I think the moral here is that it's okay to reinvent your comic.
For sure, like, your first thing's never going to be your best thing.
Yeah, so it's okay to spend some time to... but yeah, there were good aspects of it, and we won't talk too long about those, because some of them are going, like, to be sort of repurposed. Yeah, there's like
there's a decent amount of stuff that's being repurposed.
Yeah, so...
Other than the other stuff that's not being repurposed, the only thing I'd say that's like decent is like the ancestor story. Even though it wasn't like fully fleshed out, we didn't have all the answers set. I feel like what we did have was alright. It wasn't like anything amazing. I still think what we've got now in Desynced like outdoes it. Every fucking every part of the new Desynced outdoes it. But basically it's decent.
Here's another question here.
Wait.
Oh, sorry.
Wait. I have one more thing to add.
Okay, sure.
About good things about old Desynced. Anyways, Paradise Dayton, best character, that was my Trollsona. If you couldn't tell, his name is like Paradise Daytona, loved Jimmy Buffett, lived on a boat. Honestly, kind of a gimmick character, but...
They were all gimmick characters.
Okay, yes, they were all gimmick characters, but mine was a fun gimmick. Because the boys in the band ordered boat drinks. Alright, let's carry on.
I did not know that it was
20 minutes
pronounced
in.
Paradise.
Yeah, I was really shocked that Ethan pronounced it properly. like I genuinely, if you listen back on the recording, I went, oh my god.
Yeah, I noticed.
I had never heard Ethan pronounce paradise instead of parati.
I always said parati, and if I started talking about parati, I would have said parati, as I just casually did without even thinking about it.
Okay, so we've got another question here. This one is from Tati on Discord. How do you...
Hi, Tati.
Hi, Tati.
How did you keep the motivation to start Desynced once you fleshed out ideas? The answer is that we kind of didn't. And this goes into how the original Desynced came to be the new Desynced. So after a while of developing the original Desynced, we'd put quite a while, a good...
Oh yeah, we established the general story.
Yeah.
We had like the entire ending set out. Like I wrote paragraphs on that.
Yeah. We'd set up a lot of stuff for this, development of this. But we sort of, after a while, it sort of began to stagnate, and after a falling out between all of us, we
just didn't talk for like 2 months.
Yeah. So
yeah.
So at that point, Desynced kind of, as a concept, came to an end. And and then when we eventually started talking again,
Half of us came out as transgender.
Yeah, that happened, and it once again actually started the same way
It repeats itself.
that the original Desynced said, is that, like, we didn't start this under intention to make a webcomic or to,
No.
like, continue the original plan of Desynced. We literally just, like, Emily just drew us in.
I drew all of us as an excuse for me to, like, draw, like, some gender euphoric shit. That was it. And then I just put it under, like, the guise of being like, oh, I'm gonna draw us for fun because you're
Yeah.
such great friends. And in reality, I just wanted to draw myself.
But, so, drew us, and then, like, we thought, what would we do if we were in Homestuck? And so
we played Spur, and things have changed a lot since then.
Yeah, so if you are not aware, and if it's not obvious so far, the main teams of Desynced are based on, and so the main teams of Desynced are based on original.
They were originally self-inserts.
They were originally
Yeah.
self-inserts.
I wouldn't call them that anymore, though. I think
Yeah,
all of them have developed, like, way past that. I don't think...
They've definitely developed.
I mean, you can
Yeah.
definitely tell.
I promise you guys, I take showers. Please believe me.
So yeah, like Emily's self-insert was, Kate.
Became Kate.
Mine became Evan. You can tell the similarities.
To be fair, like...
Even just like in the name.
3 out of 5 of them have, like, the very similar names.
But yeah, so the designs changed a lot. The person, and we sort of had to reinvent them because we had to, like, actually make characters that would fit within a story.
Yeah, this I think was, like, the biggest, like, step up from and something that I think we kind of learned from the Desynced beta going into recreating it was not so much like creating, like, a story around characters and creating characters around a story. So, like, while we did have, like, these eventually, like, 5 flexible characters, they would, like, change a lot because of the story. And that's not to say, like, you can't have create a story around the characters. It just, personally, I think it's a lot easier to have a compelling story with that in mind, with that approach.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, the story might feel, how do I explain it?
The characters may
Shoehorned
feel a
in.
bit disjointed from the story
Yeah.
itself. But yeah, so we basically had to, even though we did make the characters first, we sort of had to reinvent them in that sense.
Yeah.
So they're very different. Like, while some aspects of our own lives have been used to inspire their arcs and their stories, they are very different from
I feel
us.
personally, with that kind of approach, I feel it's less like that, one of, like, the remaining things from when they were self-inserts, and more so, like, our way of, like, projecting our own life experiences onto these characters.
Yeah.
Because I know I can
Yeah.
speak for myself, like, all of, like, Kate's main arc right now is definitely something I went through around that same age.
Yeah, I actually feel like this, kind of goes into another question that was asked. This was asked by Galactic Lepidoptera, on
Lepidoptera,
Discord.
The study of moths.
Oh,
Aw, that's so cute.
that was cute.
I didn't know that. Desynced has more than 2 openly trans characters. How do you feel about knowing that representation is making the characters more relatable for a lot of trans people who read your fan adventure?
I want to just quickly open, and I don't know if this person's, like, listening right now, but I remember when Desynced Volume 1 first came out. By the way, Desynced has 2 volumes, and they're fucking amazing. Shout out music team, I fucking love you. Also, most of them from the Paradox music team. Go listen to their music, it's amazing. Where was I? Oh yeah, when Desynced Volume 1 came out, Kate's main theme, Daughter, which was, like, the song that, like, started this whole thing. Technically, like, the first Desynced song. Well, apart from the shitty one I made. And I remember, like, around the time it came out, someone commented, like, this, I related to this character, and I'm not even trans. And then I came back like months later when I was just listening to the song again, and I saw that that person actually did like, you know, figured out that they were trans, and that, you know, Kate's writing and stuff helped them a lot. And like, I just want to say that fucking made my day.
Yeah, that was...
And that is probably like the best feeling I have gotten from Desynced so far, knowing that not only is this like an important story to people and it's really, you know, people are enjoying it, but that it's like helping people.
Yeah, I think from the point of view of a trans person who's been out for quite a long time now, being able to share trans stories is so important.
Absolutely.
Because I feel like a lot of people, even if they know what being trans is, will end up stuck in this sort of loop of like, oh, well, I wish I was that, but I'm definitely not, you know?
Yeah.
So I think being able to see characters go through these things as opposed to just being like, oh, this character is trans, it can definitely be helpful for people.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that's not to say like a trans character has to have their entire story built around the fact that they're trans.
Yeah.
It's just it can be a really important like narrative to tell, but it doesn't have to be like, for example, Yellow's non-binary, but their arc isn't focused around their gender identity.
Yeah, it is honestly, it's such a, being able to see that, like, you know, that these stories have helped people or have meant something to people in like these sort of ways is honestly such an amazing feeling. Like, even if it's just one person, like, it's still such an amazing feeling. There's been heaps of people over the course of Desynced coming out, especially after the update where we can properly confirm that Kate was trans. You know, there's been a lot of people that have been like, you know, oh, you know, this is like sharing my experience. People, but like, I just personally like seeing someone help someone come out or like realize it themselves. That was just like on another level of, you know, emotion to me. And that's why I'm just kind of, you know, not continuing with that, but kind of keeping on the whole idea of like a trans kind of within the comic. I'm really fortunate that we are working within like this Homestuck kind of umbrella term, I guess, you know, as Homestuck fan venture, because like, you know, while there are like the bad corners of the community, what one doesn't, I feel, especially the comic itself is very, you know, pro LGBT and it has a lot of LGBT representation. So it's, you know, I feel like that's really beneficial to us because we get to, you know, express more of that love towards those people. Yeah.
If I may change topic, this is sort of in the same vein. But just because we're talking about how happy seeing people loving Desynced makes us, Jelly on Discord asked, how do you feel when you see fan art? And I just want to say, I piss my pants every single time. Like, literally, my pants get fucking soaked down to the knees every single time.
This is better than what you first said when you read the question.
So, on a serious note, it is genuinely such an awesome thing, like seeing someone enjoy the comic enough to want to put like time into making their own content of the characters. It's just such an amazing thing. And like, I've seen throughout the course of like releasing the comic since we first started releasing it, we've seen a fair bit of fan art for it, and it's always like the coolest thing to see.
Oh yeah, it's the best.
Like, honestly, even like whether it's fan art, even just like people just talking about the comic, it's always like, like,
just so you know, if you have a live tweet, Fred, of Desynced, I will be there pushing F5 the entire time. I will be there. If you see that I like that first tweet, I am there for the whole ride.
Just seeing people appreciating these characters in this story that, like,
we've been building.
I don't know about you, but I have put my heart and soul into this.
Honestly, like, regardless of what happens, this is something that is, and I feel I can speak for most of us here, is something that's so important to me. And regardless of what happens, you know, whether it's something that happens with us, whether it's something that happens within like the Homestuck community or the Desynced community, this is a comic that I'm going to finish. We are in this for the long haul, so look forward to future decent content.
I guess on the note of, sorry, just to be very tangential, on the note of finishing, we've got a question here from Mr. Magician on Discord asking, how many acts are we going to have?
Oh, yeah. Okay, so I've talked about this a few times, specifically in, like, you know, the Desynced discussion channel within our servers, well, mainly just in our server. But I feel that's a great way to, like, you know, publicly make it as public knowledge as we can, that Desynced will have 8 acts. So, yeah, it's going to be an 8-act long story. There's going to be no, at least traditional, like, you know, Act 6, intermission-free kind of shit. Like, we're not really doing that. Really? You'll see eventually what I mean by that. But, like, yeah. That's, you know, 8 acts. That's how long it's going to be. I'd say it's going to roughly be around the same length as Homestuck, give or take. You know.
Oh my god, we're going to be at this for a while, huh?
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, we're almost, you know, we're steadily on our way to page 1000. And you know, we've talked about this a bit, but we're trying to keep, you know, moving on from, at least from like Act 3 onwards, we're going to try and like limit an act to 1,000 pages. Things might be subject to change if, you know, we need more time for pacing issues, because at the end of the day, that's what matters the most, pacing. We don't want to spend too long on something. We don't want to spend, you know, too short on something, which is something that we've had to like deal with a lot. And I know me personally, I've learned a lot about pacing throughout just, you know, since last October. But yeah, 8 acts.
I mean, there are even now some parts of Desynced that, you know, we put out a month ago that I look at now and I'm like, oh, we could have paced that so much better.
It's specifically
like with Momo's intro.
Oh yeah, 100%. There's a few things with you know, Desynced so far that if I could go back, I would change.
Yeah.
Spending more time in Momo's room is definitely one of them. But
yeah, for sure.
We will redeem that soon. Soon we'll redeem that. Yeah, and also like probably another thing I would preferred as well as spending more time in the intermission one. Well, we got all the information, we wanted out. I felt it could have been paced a bit better. We could have seen a bit more of the characters.
Yeah.
Also, just more fact one in general, to be honest.
I think on the note of like pacing and stuff, I feel like elaborating on something that we sort of touched on earlier but didn't really go too into detail on is sort of our process for making the comic, and that, you know, throughout the years like the year or so for this like Desynced 2.0 or the current version of Desynced, we've basically spent that discussing and figuring out a general plan for the entire story of Desynced, which we can.
I mean, to be fair, by the time we got to 1001, more or less we had the entire thing out. We had at the very least, we had a good chunk of the first half, and we had the ending. We had like bit of holes up from like. Also, like really quick, I forgot to mention. There's gonna technically be like a side 1 and a side 2. I'm not gonna elaborate more on that. But since I mentioned the whole like duality and double theme that's, you know, still exists from the Desynced beta to Desynced now, there is right now we are technically in what I personally, you know, consider to be side 1 of Desynced. Wait years to figure out what I mean by that.
But yeah, so like we usually like so just as if anyone is curious about like, you know, how we go about making this comic, you know, we have a rough idea for the like entire comic planned. Then once like in the span of the current act, we do a bit more detailed where we like go through update by update and figure out, okay, what's each update going to look like. And you know, while we do have these plans quite a while beforehand, things can be subject to change. We do change things around. Like as we get up close and think, actually, maybe we should do this instead, or should we change this up or put this later, or you know, or
we should spend more time with this one. Maybe split it across 2 updates instead of 1. Or maybe we can maybe this one isn't like, you know, not enough substance for an update, and we can just make it, around 10 pages long and include it with this update. Things are subject to change.
And in a few cases, we've made new characters. Like halfway through.
Because we can talk. I want to talk. We're talking more about this later. We've got plans to talk about this later. But the coming soon cast, the adults on Earth, while we did have them before 1001, they were probably the latest addition to Desynced. They were made a few months prior, so we did have enough time to flesh them out, and even then we had like a few months until we saw Jess and Mia for the first time.
Yeah.
But they were definitely the latest thing to be added to the comic, which was Well, we can talk more about that later. I've got heaps of thoughts for coming soon and those characters, but in that specific case, we have added new characters and fleshed out characters that we weren't really intending to have major roles, specifically the Carapacians.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying the Carapacians, and I'm glad to see that a lot of other people are enjoying them as well.
Yeah, looking at you, Mickey.
We've got a few Carapacian fans out there.
Oh, real quick, this was a joke question, but why is Charlie Davis the best character? Because I fucking said so. He has had hours upon days of development. He is easily the most complex character in the entire narrative.
His name is so dumb.
All the Carapacians have dumb names.
Yeah, that is one annoying thing, is that, like, we recently had a night where we spent, like, hours upon hours just trying to figure out names, because with the Carapacians, you have to have, like, names that fit the initials of the like, actual names. And it can take a while
like
sometimes.
On like 4 characters' names.
Hey guys, it's me, Charlie Davis.
I just love like the default Carapacian names though, because like they're stupid, but they're supposed to be stupid. Have you not realized how stupid of a name Jack Noir is? His name literally like translates to Jack Black. And while that could be like a reference to like Black Jack opposed to the actor, I beg to differ.
Here's an interesting one, if I can just find it really quickly.
I believe in you.
Find the question.
Hearts box cars.
Hearts box.
It's just tradition to have the Carapacians have the stupidest names possible.
Okay, here's one from Reva. Where do you feel you've grown the most? What can still be improved?
Everything. Okay, so I'm gonna speak as probably like Desynced's main artist right now. Everyone disagrees with me to some extent. The art has changed drastically, and the old Desynced art is fucking horrendous. I'm sorry. This is the first you're hearing of Desynced, and you decide to start reading it afterwards. The first 30 or so pages are garbage, except for the opening one, which is a sound page that we recreated later on. But the first 30 or so pages are garbage. Then up to like 210, they're mediocre at best. And then I figured out how to draw.
I think she's being a little bit harsh on herself. I agree.
Put up some old panel art. Put some right after. Put the most recent stuff. They're garbage.
I absolutely agree that art is an area where the comic has improved drastically, as Emily has improved. But I don't think the early stuff was that bad.
Yeah. I think everything has improved drastically, and while I would say like art is one of the most, I probably would say we've touched upon it, so we don't need to go too into it. But I just think like originality, like originally the comic was trolls on Alternia playing Scrub, and there was nothing unique about it. They just played Scrub, and the antagonist was Lord English. And they had dance sisters, and there was no originality. It was just it was just completely off the foundation of Hive Bent, primarily. Where now, Desynced's like so different to the point where, while there would still be similarities, we could probably just start over with like doing normal humans and stuff, and we'd probably, it'd still be like original, but it's still important to us to have, Desynced be a Homestuck fan venture.
Yeah.
Reckon. But yeah, the originality is like, way better than it was before. Unique game, expanding upon even the characters that still exist from Homestuck, which are only the Carapacians. I don't know if it's clear. only the carapaces are the same as Homestuck. No other Homestuck character will make an appearance or be relevant in any capacity.
Except Vriska.
Except Vriska, yeah. Oh, and Mina. Oh, I love that bitch.
Yeah, another thing that I think we've definitely improved on is, I think our writing has gotten significantly better.
Way better. Yeah, I wanted to talk about that.
Every time I go back and read like older Desynced pages, I'm like, I feel like I should rewrite this whole thing.
Oh, no,
this is so muddy and hard to read.
See, part of me feels like that's something we can go back and change. We're not like keep the same content, but I think we can rewrite it to be better. And that's something I do want to do when we've got time in the future to go back and rewrite those pages. Because like right now, you know, because at the older pages, as someone who wrote a lot of them, a lot of the time I just felt like I was writing fluff. because Homestuck's writing had like heaps of stuff, but I'm a dumb and, you know, I haven't written in it like a year. Or I'm just, you know, all I can write to describe this scene is like a sentence, but like Homestuck has paragraphs, so let me just write a bunch of fluff.
Yeah.
So like now I think it's like much better to the point where I just mindlessly write, and there's been pages recently where I've got like paragraphs of text to the point I've got to go back and cut back. Or even like old conversations, you know, same idea. It was like, oh, old Homestuck conversations are long as, but I don't know how to like continue writing these characters. It's like here's a bit more fluff, and even then they were like short as. But like now, I just like lock my head into their brains and just like write fucking paragraphs.
Just roleplay with yourself for an hour.
That's honestly all it is now. I love writing characters. Apart from Evan and Josh, those fucking two, they just. Evan writes paragraphs and Josh rambles about the stupidest bullshit for way too long.
I mean, okay, that was an aspect that was taken directly from me, so thanks for the casual insult there, Emily.
That was an aspect taken from both of you.
Anyways, have you guys heard about the Kentucky Goblin?
So anyway, what is our next?
Haven't tell me more.
Yeah, no, I want to know more about
I
this.
already talked to you about the Kentucky Goblin, Mica. Go back in our DMs.
My memory is not that good.
But yeah, I think because writing is something where we were all pretty much like amateurs at that.
Yeah.
Like none of us had that much experience writing, so I think that's something that we've definitely learned more.
Yeah, I mean, like to be fair, like I'm speaking for myself, I should say. Like I said, briefly mentioned before, I hadn't written properly in like a year when I started writing Desynced. And like, you know, well, I was like pretty okay at writing beforehand, you know. A year, that's just gonna fucking go away. So it was, you know, and I didn't prepare myself that much leading up to it. I think I wrote like not one is generous, like a fifth of like a mock conversation, and that was it going up to it, and then we just wrote. So like, it was pretty like a bad approach, and I really don't recommend doing it that way. I really recommend practicing and making sure. Like, if there's one thing of Desynced on this topic of like improving, I wish I spent more time developing my art and writing. So like, even if it wasn't like, you know, to where we are now at the start, at least it was at the point of where we were at like page 30 or something. Like, I don't know. Those first 30 pages, it like literally hurt to look at now. And it's weird because like people like complimented that, and at the time I was like, oh cool, I wasn't like really feeling that good about it, but if you guys see something, oh that's cool. And then like the second I got like changed how I did things, and I'm like, oh fucking Christ. It took like a day of changing things up to be like, oh my god, all those people seeing, Jesus Christ. Hand to my eye, look the other way, oh that's not mine. But hey, that's like, you know, we don't have any plans for art of Desynced on the first 30 pages to go back, and I don't think anyone on the team would let me, as much as I wanted, go back and change them. But no. I am happy that we did decide to, because most people won't know this unless you go to like the first video on the channel, but the opening flash for Desynced, on page Sunrise, that was, we didn't have a music team at that point, and we had, you know, didn't really have the right skills to make a song that long. So we just used an unused song from Homestuck.
Yeah.
from the sound test, and then once we got Potato Boss on our team, God bless his soul. He decided, you know, I asked him if he could make a new song for Flash, and he did. So like we had to go back and re-upload it anyway. So I just kind of used that as an opportunity to like just do it from scratch. So like, that's like one thing I am happy. I'm fine with the old art now because, like, you know, as long as we've got like that opening flash to like show people like, yes, things do get better. That won't stay this way. There's a promise. I'm fine. I think that's about it when it comes to like.
Yeah.
Improvements.
On that note, I remember there was a question here. This is from Reva on Discord. What do you think will make people want to read Desynced over another fan adventure? What's the hook? That was part of the thing that we were thinking about when we were first making the comic. Is we wanted this as part of the hook. We wanted to start on a high note, so we wanted our first page to be a flash.
That was a concept way back into the Desynced beta.
Yeah.
The flash is very different to what we initially had planned.
Yeah.
But the opening with a flash was always the plan.
So this isn't something we'd really seen before on other fan adventures. Very well could be. I must admit I'm not.
Yeah, no, I've seen a couple.
Okay. But we.
It's not common at the very least.
But we thought it'd be an interesting hook. So and we decided early on that 1001 was going to be our day. That was going to be the Desynced day, and that was when we were going to release it. So the month before that was a bit of a mad dash of getting that flash ready.
Yeah, and especially because this is our first flash we made, and like I've been studying. That year I'd been studying animation for 10 months, so like I kind of had a decent understanding. I hadn't used like Macromedia Flash before though, and mine's very similar to what I was used to using Adobe Anime. I had to kind of like rewrite my brain a bit, and I didn't really know how to like do the whole Homestuck style, and I wasn't really, you know, confident at that point doing an entire animation by myself. So while I was still the one that put all the assets together, we kind of split like between like how many of us did stuff? A lot of us did stuff. I know all of us here did at least like one scene in it, but yeah. And just talking more about that, like I didn't even like know where like the tweening was or the opacity thing was. So like, what I literally did. Oh my god, I hate my past self. When I had the assets, I'd have 4 different versions of them saved in my computer of different opacity levels, and then I'd put them on. It was so fucking choppy, and if you look back, because you can still find it, the first Desynced video on the YouTube channel. It looks terrible at the time. I was like, wow, we've got a flash, wow. And then like the second we made our second flash, or third flash technically, well, you know, second proper flash, I was like, oh, fuck Christ.
But yeah, so that is one reason why we did go back and update that, because, you know, since this was meant to be
it was the only
hook,
flash that was desperately needed one.
Yeah, we thought, you know, it'd be good to give it a good update. We also just updated the resolution on a couple other ones, but they were the same animation.
Yeah. But beyond that, beyond like the hook, if you want like a more kind of like general kind of, you know, thing from like a kind of surface level, or someone like an outsider looking into Desynced, I think maybe like, you know, there's 2 things. Again, I want to talk about one of these things later. It's the adults. But the second is being like a unique game, and like there's a lot of fan benches that do, you know, have a unique game, but I just feel like, you know, a unique game is definitely something that kind of helps intrigue people, you know, so people can like discover things for the first time, to give that kind of bring back that feeling of discovering this new world and this new story, and then, you know, how this game works and the rules of the world and stuff like that. And that was, at least early on, that was one of the biggest compliments that Desynced got, was how it kind of made people feel like how they felt when they read Homestuck for the first time. Yeah.
Like, there was still an element of mystery to it.
Yeah.
It was, you know, it wasn't so different that, you know, it was still a Homestuck fan adventure, and it didn't feel alienating to Homestuck fans. Yeah. But at the same time, it felt, you know, unique. It wasn't just the same thing over again, you know.
And it helped introduce the theme of change. So, yeah, but they helped like introduce like kind of like the theme of like change and like stuff like that, because, you know, everything we see in the comic initially, for the most, you know, more often than not, was shown in like to be like very Homestuck adjacent. You know, like, oh, I've seen this in Homestuck, but then over time you realize, oh wait, no, this is different. This works differently. You know, we're introduced to this game. They're playing a game. Oh, it's probably Spurb. Oh, it's not Spurb. Oh, okay. You know, we go into the medium. Oh, Carapacians are back. Oh, it's a metropolitan city now, and they've all got proper names. Oh, God Tiers are back. Oh wait, they're not actually God Tiers. They're called Celestials, and they supposedly function differently. there's no player planets. Like everything everything's introduced to seem the same as Homestuck, but it's over time it's revealed that it functions differently, and as such, expect if you ever think something similar to Homestuck, it's probably not going to be. Because one of the themes of Desynced, which we're starting to see more, is like change. All these how things change, how especially growing up, how much you change the person, how much the world around you changes.
Haha, change.
Is that a Desynced reference?
I feel like we should put this out there. MSPFA fucking sucks. It's a nightmare to work with.
Look, I don't want to be that rude. It's
not that bad. It's just that's one thing I would recommend, is because this is something that we jumped into without any preparation. We didn't look into MSPFA before making it, before those first pages. We're just like, oh, we'll put on MSPFA. How difficult could it be? I highly recommend getting used to it.
Yeah,
it's hard.
It can be a bit finicky sometimes.
Yeah, but it's fine for what it is, and especially it's a good way to introduce your fan venture. It's it's like the home of the fan venture. It's like the center base that you can reach anyone. It's a good way to get an audience and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm very happy though that we've and while we'll stick to MSPFA updating alongside the website. I'm really happy that we've got our own website now. Yeah. Especially because it allows us to do a lot of stuff. One of the biggest reasons why we wanted the website, though, is that we do have interactive walk-around flashes planned. We actually had one planned earlier, but we had to change it for technical difficulties. And we're planning on using HTML5, and I'm personally not really knowledgeable with this stuff. That's like the one thing I don't know how to do. But to my knowledge, it's at least very difficult to get HTML5 working in, just working in general, especially in MSPFA. And while we still would try and get it to work in MSPFA, right now, our plan is to have it be hosted on the website. So that makes our job a lot easier. Because at the end of the day, while we are hundreds of pages in, over half a year, through this comic at this point, we're still very new to this.
Yeah, we're still learning. We're still babies in the grand scheme of things.
With MSPFA, because of Flash support ending in a couple of months now.
Shit.
We
decided not
we
to do
had to make sure hey, Flash isn't really an option. How are we gonna go about this?
Turns out you can put links in pages.
Yeah.
And I spent 3 hours figuring that out. I don't know why it was so difficult to figure out.
Whoever finds Joseph's test fan venture to do that.
Anyways, read SDFJSKNKD on MSPFA.
So there's a question here from Chest Wanderlust. Does Desynced will have its own fansim? The answer is it doesn't at the moment, but it definitely will.
Now I get the talk about coming soon. Yes.
So a while ago we announced coming soon, which is going to be a
visual
Never
novel.
explained
game.
that, did we? We just posted the name.
We did announce there was a visual novel in its announcement. I feel but I just feel it's important that we reestablish things. Because while I know, when people do find out Desynced, especially if they join D6 server and stuff, they will find out about coming soon. But it's it was announced at a time when we were around 100 followers, if not, less.
Yeah.
So it's very possible that people have forgotten at this point. But yes, Desynced does have a visual novel in the works, which will focus around the adults that we've seen, especially with the most recent updates, particularly from Mia's perspective. There's been a few references hidden in the comic to something happening in the past, so this will be a prequel. But yeah, it's kind of while Pestaquest and Friend Sim was supposed to be a spoof or a subversion of dating sims, Coming Soon's more on a spy detective kind of thing, playing on tropes and those kind of things. And yeah, we've been working a lot on it, especially recently. But yeah, that's definitely got one.
Still probably going to be a while off before you see it coming out, but keep.
Oh, can I do one of my
keep an ear
patented
forward.
Emily makes a promise that's really unrealistic and forces all of us to work harder to meet their deadline? Can I do one of those right now?
Oh.
Yes.
I can. It's coming soon.
Fuck, that's way better than mine. I was just gonna say 10:01. But yeah, but now I'm gonna get to talk about change. Get to talk about coming soon. So, this kind of like goes back to what we were talking about a bit before, but I feel like one of the most important things to us and kind of what helped us, realize, all right, this is something new, is fleshing out Earth, making it more than just like this, location before they play the game, so that can just be discarded after they enter the game. And to do that, we built all these characters, some more important than others, obviously. Fucking look at Jess, but yeah. So that's one thing I'm like really looking forward to, is exploring more of Earth, because what's happening beyond just the game is super important to the narrative. It might not be it might be obvious from the last update, but these characters are very, very integral to the story. Yeah, I'm really happy about introducing adults and, kind of on top of that, like, letting them speak.
Yeah,
Shout
like
out
that is
Bedford.
one thing you definitely see is different from base Homestuck, is that
If they're a character,
the
you
Guardians, and the Guardians, along with other adult characters, have a much bigger role and
Yeah.
actually have dialogue, because that is a thing in Homestuck. Isn't the Guardians don't have any dialogue, which works
Yeah.
very well for Homestuck, but we thought we wanted to be able to have them, be able to talk more. So
It works really well in Homestuck's context, because the way the Guardians worked with Homestuck was that they were just these people that that the kids didn't understand. They were very mysterious kind of figures of their life. While they still looked up to them, they never really understood them, comprehended them. So like it made
My
sense.
dad
that-
doesn't understand me.
So like it made sense that since this is kind of more so from the perspective of the kids in Homestuck, it would make sense that we don't have the more like written and just narration. Where in Desynced, while that is true to a certain extent, the kids the teens have a decent understanding of who they are, even if it's a wrong understanding.
yeah.
Mhm.
So like there's still that element of like not understanding, hence why they've still got like the missing facial features and stuff. But since they closer in age, and Desynced's built around a lot around the idea of entering adulthood, it made a lot more sense thematically to let them speak. And that just kind of goes for like the civilizations on the player lands, as well as the Carapacians. They get to speak too.
And yeah, it gives some more characters. I know both Dad Bedford and Mum Henari are very popular characters. There is a question here from Nepeta saying, why is the music team so epic?
Hi, Nepeta, the real one.
The real Nepeta,
Yeah,
real
the
Nepeta
real
from
Nepeta.
Homestuck. Hi Nepeta.
See, okay, no, we lied before. This is the thing that makes Desynced more interesting. This is the hook. We've got the actual Nepeta.
We've got the actual
Reading our
Nepeta
comments.
as a fan for a comment. This is... But yeah, so... Emily already gave a shout out for, but I want to give another shout out, because, like, honestly, big props to the music team. Like,
Oh yeah,
none
honestly.
of this would have... Like, so much
all
of
this
this
music you're
wouldn't
hearing in the
have been-
background. Yeah, like all this music here in the background is like half of what they've made for us.
Yeah.
And that's fucking insane.
Like, we've already got 2 whole albums made by them, and, like, all the...
With one in the works coming up, like we mentioned earlier.
Yeah. All except the first few flashes have had music by them, and so much of this wouldn't have been possible without them. So
Yeah.
it's
And yeah, huge props. It's,
everyone clap for the music team.
My mic really doesn't like picking up claps.
Yeah, and mine probably won't, because I was being quiet, because as I established pre-recording, I want to keep my claps to a minimum. But yeah, while we're talking about the music team and how fantastic they are, I want to, I feel this is a good opportunity to like announce, the next thing that they're working on, which is very cool. We talked about at the beginning of the opening, it was, the first song we heard. If you've listened to the Desynced volumes up till now, you'll notice that I haven't heard that one before. What the fuck? That's because the next album we've got isn't actually volume 3. Wow, who would have thought? definitely me, because I'm ahead of time. But yeah, this is our first themed album, which I'm like really looking forward to. It probably won't, well, it won't be. We've already decided the track list. It won't be to the same length. It'll just be 20 tracks, but it's gonna be based on Prosper and Durst. So you know, the song you heard was by Rainy. Love ya, love Rainy. The amount of shit he's done for us, my God, I'm blessed. That was a song he made for Daniel Dime, the Desynced DD, who we did sneak
Daniel
in.
Dime.
Who we did sneak in not only a damn Daniel joke, but also a Jack Daniels joke, because of his conversation with Jack. Together, that's my favorite shit in Desynced about it.
Okay, should we
Yeah.
stop now?
Okay,
Yeah.
let's outro. So thank you everyone for watching this. I really hope you enjoyed, and if this is your first time seeing anything from Desynced, make sure to
Read our fucking comments.
I will hope you enjoy it. And so yeah, I hope you enjoyed
I
this.
put so much time into this comment. I put hours and hours a week. You don't know how much I sleep. Give me attention. Also, I'm at 270 followers, and I have been at this for months. I'm going to go insane if I stay here any longer. Please
Actually,
change this.
this goes into another question from Reaver. What does an average work week for DC to look like?
Terrible. Don't copy my work ethic.
We have to chain her down and stop her from working.
It's been said a lot of time in the Homestuck community that you don't follow what Hussey did in early Homestuck. I didn't listen to that. Be better than me.
Anyways, have fun at the next panel, guys.
Okay.
Haha, SAHCon. Did you know that it's a dick joke, like SAHCon this dick? Did you guys know that?
You're so funny, Joseph. You're fucking hilarious.
So-
I just wanna. Can everyone who's listening to this applaud and laugh as loud as possible, because Joseph is a fucking comedian. Hilarious.
Bye, everyone.
Okay, bye everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay.
Okay.
Should I stop recording now?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, fuck. True. I
Okay.
didn't think of that.
Okay.